Alright, welcome. This is the discussion for Monogatari off-season / monster season episode 1. What an episode. What a start to a series. We're already good, off to a really great start. So here's how it's gonna go. I do have a reaction, by the way, if you stumble upon this discussion and not the reaction. Check that out right here. But other than that, let's get into it. We're going to go through the episode. We're going to talk about the different things that are getting mentioned that I actually wanted to pay attention to. A little bit about the art, a little bit about other things. And I have a couple of things that I'm going to highlight. Boom, get it on the screen. We start with, I think this is ice cream, right? Pistachio? It looks like it. 001, observation of the Shideno bird, which, Shideno tori. Right? Shide no tori, which means dying bird. Otherwise also referred to as kuko or lesser kuko, which is the whole idea of just nesting yourself into somebody else's nest, which we had in Nise Monogatari, specifically in Tsukihi Monogatari, where we talked about her phoenix being... they actually don't use the word phoenix all that often. They use phoenix occasionally, kind of as a trend word to kind of translate it to all audiences who don't understand it, I believe at least, or at least to liken it to a phoenix because it's reborn from the ashes. But it also is kind of in the vein of a kuko who lays its eggs into somebody else's nest and throws out the other eggs, which it didn't do in this specific, or maybe it did actually do because the original Tsukihi that would have been was kind of thrown out more or less, right? Before it was even able to nest itself inside there. Yeah, I mean, obviously we call it Phoenix because the arc of, like, the original arc is called Tsukihi Phoenix, but we use the word Shide no Tori as a means to describe that, right? Dying bird, the form of oddity that we're describing here. And yeah, Ononoki has been observing her. For what reason, we don't quite know yet. We know the superior is, as always, on the one hand, Gain Isoko, on the other hand, I forgot how she was called, her bigger sister, Onesan, kind of character, who is also one of the specialists. Totally blanked on her name. I love that we have Ononoki actually being the person. And we're going through it, right? It's been roughly 6 months since she's been observing her. She seems to function based on her primal instincts as a creature, right? She's just deciding on vibe and mood. She's like, I don't want to do that, right? I just want to do that. I want to do that, right? I feel like doing this. And she seems to be adamant, according to Ononoki, to avoid anything that she isn't interested in, that she doesn't want to do. Yeah. But she says that she's been at the center of everything happening in this town, which is very interesting because we haven't been seeing that from that angle yet, right? Just all, like, our entire perspective of the original Monogatari series was, yeah, Araragi has been at the center of it. Funny, Araragi. Koyomi has been at the center of it, but aside from maybe Kitsu, where I'm like, not really, Tsukihi has actually, since the beginning, since Nise, been involved in any incident that happened here. We do have Nise itself, right? Current B, she was involved as one of the Fire Sisters. In her own, she was obviously involved. Then we do have other instances. She was involved in Tsukihi Monogatari. She was no, she wasn't involved in Hana, but that gets Kanbaru's story. She was involved in Nadeko, right? She was the friend of Nadeko, right? The main friend of Nadeko, why Nadeko was actually connected to the Araragi household. And she also was the one who was like, I'm gonna cut your bangs, right? So you can't hide anymore. She was seeing through her in that regard. She actually triggered some of these events happening with Nadeko and all of that going on. She was connected to, obviously, since it's Araragi and all of that stuff, she was connected to Ogi. And she also had that final talk with Ogi right at the end of Owari 2, which was very fascinating. So you could say that most of the things happening in this town, except maybe Kitsu and Hanekawa and all of that stuff, maybe that too, but I don't remember it well enough to actually say, yeah, that's the case, has been at the center. She has been at the center of it. She's always at the center of the maelstrom is what Ononoki is saying, which is very interesting. We do have that comparison, right? Let me just maelstrom, which means kachu. We do have ka on the one hand, and chu, which means the middle of, on the other side. And then we do have, in terms of like kanji, at the center of the flame, which ka chu, right? Ka, a different kanji, obviously, but ka, the kanji for fire, and chu, the kanji for middle of, right? The center. So we do have in the center of the fire, in the center of the flame, and in the center of the maelstrom. Wordplay, holy shit. Of course, you will see in distortion if an immortal apparition is close to the nucleus. Very, like, cryptic. I can't quite make out what she means here. Obviously, if anything is at the center of a flame, you do see the distortion. And she describes how living or with her observing her means you can't show mercy and you can't be mesmerized, which I do wonder if that comes up later on, right? That we do have this element of Ononoki Yotsugi actually being involved, becoming emotionally involved with Tsukihi. Obviously, she's saying you need to be cold-hearted, right? You need to be immortal. All of these things in order to have that job or fulfill that job properly to observe her. Interestingly enough, though, we have seen multiple times, and we see it even mentioned in this episode, that Ononoki isn't without feelings, right? She isn't without emotions, right? She's very logical, she's very pragmatic, and obviously she does have that disconnect to living beings because of her being a Shikigami. But she herself is kind of describing herself as well as being a person who has emotions and motivations and all of that behind that. So it is very interesting to see her kind of mentioning that you can't really be emotional, right? You have to be cold-hearted, you have to not show sympathy, you have to not be mesmerized. And I do wonder if, as also an immortal being, though also who has a lot of differences that she describes to Tsukihi, but also has a lot of similarities, if she doesn't empathize with her and get mesmerized by the flame, so to speak, because like a moth to the flame. Like I do remember that one quote where it's like Giguk talking about trash anime about dumpster fires and us being drawn to the flame. Funny times, right? But anyway, right, we're drawn to stuff like fire, flames, the chaos that it brings with, like the furor it brings with it, in a way. It can only be observed by an abominable, heartless monster. You can annihilate its brilliant flight, but will you do that? Or will you enable her to actually take flight? Interestingly enough, we do have that birdcage motif in a lot of that show, and what we always see is the bird indication and the birdcage opening, which in my opinion symbolizes kind of Tsukihi being in this protected world where she doesn't know that she's immortal, where she doesn't know oddities and apparitions exist, where she's unaware of all of these things, right? And the birdcage is basically all of her life, these things repeating themselves and her being protected in this sphere. And I do wonder if this is foreshadowing. Now, obviously, in the episode it happens, but at the end of the episode we reset it. But I wonder if this is foreshadowing for her breaking out of that birdcage and finding out that there's a whole wild world outside, but while at the same time she's got infinite freedom ahead of her now. The problem is that the world is so big that it might be intimidating, overwhelming in the beginning, right? It might shatter her world specifically. Right, this is the episode in the Orokamonogatari series, Tsukihi Undo. This is episode 1 of Off and Monster season, but episode 3 in the Orokamonogatari series, which is very interesting. Somebody tell me actually what Orokamonogatari means. I do have the picture here where I oh no, that's the wrong picture. That is the right picture, where I kind of underlined that. The blue that you see underlined at the top, the blue kanji is underlined with the blue line, is means Monogatari. The first kanji I can't identify, right? That must be Oroka, whatever that means. Kind of sounds like Orca. I doubt that's what it means, but you know. And of course we have Tsukihi Undo, which is Tsukihi, U-N, Do, and U. Well, U, I say U as in German. U, obviously. So it's Tsukihi Undo. Very interesting that we start with episode 3 in the series as the part 1 of like the series. I do wonder if we have like some shenanigans going on, right? Some chronological shenanigans. Either way, it's good to know. It's good to know that we're not starting right in the way. Holy shit, the shaft head tilts are back. I'm so fucking happy about that. We do have Araragi coming in and giving Ononoki ice cream. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Go to college. Go study at college. Stop fucking around. But yeah, it's Araragi. He cares about the people around him, right? And he always cared a lot about Ononoki. She says it's because he's got a lolly complex, but right, it's more than that. We hide that. We often hide serious things like him actually caring about the people around him with offhand jokes like that. And Araragi, when he was the main narrator of the show, actually did that a lot also to protect himself from scrutiny, right? Protect himself from people being like, oh yeah, this is you being emotional, this is you being involved. To hide his embarrassment, to hide his true motives behind the joke of the joke of being a kind of a lolicon. And we have Haagen-Dazs here. Haley, holy shit, dude. You're really spoiling her. But I think this is interesting. This is something I didn't know, that she loses her humanoid form if she doesn't pretend to be human. Which makes sense, right? The perception of like how you perceive people to be are how they are. And in a way, if she doesn't pretend to be human towards the few people who know her and towards herself, then that means that the concept of her in people's and her own mind is starting to waver. And with that, since she is one of those oddities, one of those weird supernatural beings, right, that are based a lot on perception and common societal norms and whatnot, she would start to change, right? She would start to cease being human in a way. But I find it very interesting to have it concretely spelled out right here. And she's been living there since a while. And holy shit, like, Karen, what? This is your room? What the fuck? This is a dojo. This is a fucking dojo. I'd love to have a room like that to work out in, but yeah. Insane. Fucking insane. And she, like, because she didn't feel like it, she didn't go to school, right? She made a U-turn and came home and discovered Ononoki right here. And she's just pretending that it was imaginary and ain't gonna fly with Tsukihi. Tsukihi ain't dumb. A lot of interesting, cool shots, right? The angles that we're using here. It's all here to keep the people engaged, right? To keep our audience engaged. And right, this little flash. What the fuck was that? I guess ice cream. The shadows that are being drawn right here. Look, bird's eye view. Bird's eye. Funny. Secretly freeloading. And she's like saying like, this is an amazing shot, right? With the reflection in her eyes, right? On the one hand, it's Tsukihi. On the other hand, it's the cuckoo. Really, really cool. I do wonder, like, oh no, that's the like that's the pupil. I was like, is that a half moon? But no, it's not a crescent moon. It's actually just a pupil. It's funny how it almost looks like a crescent moon. Yeah, she's in deep trouble. She doesn't want to kill her, right? So she's like, how do I mend this? Big L Ononoki. Wasn't that like in Platinum Disco? That shot like that where she's like going like this, and then we do have the negative image and whatnot. She's just testing her out. Again, all of the angles. From below, from above, right? The whole entire crazy Araragi household rooms where I'm like, holy shit, like, how rich are you? Your parents are just police officers, and now she's starting with like trying to burn her. I'm like, this bitch is insane, watch out. Holy fucking shit. I mean, look at these shots. The flame? And the focus on the lips, right? And the sinister way, like the room is lit up now, and she does a 7 with the match. I didn't even peek that the first time. We have so many interesting, cool things, and the thermal vision with like the degrees. That is a scary image, but it's also symbolism, right? She's the phoenix. Holy fucking shit, she burns bright. But she burns herself as well, right? Her own flame burns her. Like, that could be symbolism too, right? Her own flame burns her, kind of. Her actions, the way she acts, all of those like creaturely emotions that are coming out, right? Her whims and tantrums that we are used to from like the series before that, right? All of that is not necessarily always good for her and gets her in trouble. And as such, she's always at the center of the trouble, at the center of the flame, kind of. Ononoki with the pro-level skill. And holy shit, you're eating the match. Fail. Fucking fail. Almost perfect landing, and then the oil, and bam. And it's once again Tsukihi. Tsukihi being the cause of her misfortune. But yeah, I love all of the fucking angles. And the egg, right? We start this whole series out with like the egg symbolism. And the egg is funny because yes, they have that hairpin with the egg, right? Both Karen and her. But also very interesting because bird, egg, right? Double layers, triple layers. The whole ice cream in between cards are cool too. And she's explaining that she's a magical fighting off like an immortal being. And I'm like, holy shit. It doesn't, like, even that with like the screen in the back here, that's a tip, like that is a Madoka reference, like 1-to-1. The entire fucking scene is a Madoka reference. This is fucking, like when you see, Homura in her room and they're talking about Walpurgisnacht and whatever. 1-to-1, exactly, right? And there's a couple of these scenes in Madoka where it's like that, right? Where she's reflecting on things and we're seeing things like these in the background. But we had stuff like that in the original Monogatari series too. I do remember that one talk between, I think it was in Nisa, between like Karen B, between Hanakawa and Araragi, where they talk back and forth, and Hanakawa suddenly, like, we focus on like the television, and then stuff happens in the television while they're talking about shit. So yeah, double layers, triple layers. What is that pose? What is that fucking, look at that pose, holy fucking shit. Ononoki, behave yourself. Right, and she's like, it's like subconscious malice and involves everyone around it. That monster simply existing will draw disaster towards it. Before its towns get embroiled in disaster, I have to settle the score with. Which is funny because it is not just literally 1-to-1 what Madoka is about, right? The blood of Madoka with the witches and whatnot, and also right later on with Rave, whatever. It's also literally Tsukihi and what she's been saying about her in the beginning of the episode. So she's literally talking about her. She's like, I gotta stop this girl. But Tsukihi doesn't realize that, obviously, because she's not supposed to. And she's like, I'll help you. It's like, I'm off again to save the world. But Tsukihi is like, nope, I'm gonna help you. Don't you worry. What powers? With what powers, Tsukihi? Right? You don't know you're immortal. what powers are you gonna help her with? You think you just become a like magical girl or whatever? I mean, yeah. If suddenly somebody's like, "Oh, I'm a magical girl from another dimension. I'm gonna save you all," and she's like, maybe I can get in on this. And obviously, that would be the cure for Tsukihi's eternal boredom. As we know that from the main series, we know that from this episode alone, Tsukihi has this constant state of, I'm always just doing what I want to do. I'm getting bored very quickly with various things, and then I'm picking up new things, which to me it sounds a lot like ADHD. But yeah, right, regardless of that, it's also a temperament type, right? That you are interested in a lot of things, but also just jumping from one thing to the other and being very passionate about them for a short period of time and then just switching to the next thing. Again, I love the angles that we're using here. And Ononoki being here like, let's fight together. Beware of bird. Beware of bird indeed. Holy shit. And all the birds are circling around the house, right? It's like a bad omen, and Ononoki's pupils are going crazy. She's like, no, I want, right? This is what we do when we want a way out of like a desperate situation, where we search a way out of it and we're like, shit, what can I do, right? The stereotypical thing. This is not what we always do when we are in that situation, but this is like the stereotypical thing that you see in movies as well, that's how it's displayed. Right, and we do have a couple of references that, I'm gonna be quite honest, I just don't get. Doki Doki Magic Time? What? A mysterious encounter will change a girl's fate? What? I mean, it sounds a little bit generic, but maybe the ace is a friendship story. Somebody point out to me what references those are. I'm pretty sure I've seen at least this picture before, right? With like the two sitting like that. Not Ononoki and Tsukihi, obviously, but some other characters that are in uniforms like that and look like that. And the planet is ice cream, like pistachio ice cream. And then we go into Nadeko, actually. Hold, pause, not like that. Nadeko is a manga artist now, which really great for her, nice for her. But Ononoki is just going in, she's like, yo, by the way, like, I'm this supernatural, like, magical girl being, you think you can help me out? I think it's so easy to believe for Nadeko because she's been involved in the supernatural world, so if you believe in, like, oddities and whatnot, you might as well believe in, like, magical girls or some crazy shit. And she's had the snake thing, and to a degree she remembers being the snake god, so I don't know how exactly that works, that she's just like shoving that off all the time in her I don't know, I mean, she made the conscious decision to be a human, right? But I do believe, well, I mean, okay, she's got memories from her time as a snake god. I do wonder how that works out, but maybe we'll get into that at some point in time. They're getting really creative when they show her room, actually, which I really like. Drained in oil. Nadeko is like, I'll help you, and then she's like, she's cute, damn it. She does have that ability. But yeah, she does make the distinction. She's like, I am irreversibly an apparition. There's like a hard line that separates me from being a human because I died once and then I got raised as an apparition, as opposed to people like Nadeko and Araragi, who are also people who, like, humans who became later apparitions, but became that within their lifespan and have that had that reduced to a degree, right? Or at least like contained. But for her, it's like she never ages, she never changes, she stays the same all the time, although we could make an argument for her changing on a cognitive level, because we do see that throughout the entire, like, I mean, yeah, she's pretty much same, right? But there is little developments going on within the Monogatari series that she actually goes through. So in how much is she actually not changing, right? Is she not changing at all? Is that true? Or is that just something she believes to be true? Either way, there's a big difference between the two of them. Nadeko changes over time, and she observes herself to be relatively unchanging. And she's like, I just want to help people who are kind of right, who I kind of empathize with because they were in a similar situation as mine, but it's not exactly the same situation. Because for me, at least that's how how I read it, coming from Ononoki. For me, there's no salvation in the way that I can reverse or change this state of mind that is always going to be my status quo. Again, like I said, amazing angles. We're getting really creative with them as we go into Nadeko's room and we show all of the bookshelves. Holy shit, that's a lot of bookshelves. Proves that she's an avid manga / maybe even also book reader. We do have her drawing tablet on the one side, right? Or rather, her drawing desk, because she doesn't seem to have a tablet in that regard. Maybe I'm wrong. She does everything physical, which nice thing to do, right? And we do have her bed on the other side, and we do have like this giant glass right front over there, which brings light into the darkness of the closet. And she's like, she's hardly. At first I thought like, why is sunlight hurting her? But she's just saying like, I've been like a shut-in for quite some time. If I go out to sunlight, I might just vanish. And yeah, I can feel that on a mood level at least, right? Obviously it's not gonna happen, but oftentimes you feel like I haven't been in the sun for weeks. Holy fucking shit. And we have all those throwbacks. I wanted to actually highlight that. Look at that. We do have the school uniform, right? Her school uniform. We do have the outfit she was wearing when Araragi actually visited her. I don't even know which arc that was. I think it was in Nisa. When he was calling her up and just wanted to ask her about a couple of things, and then they were playing Game of Life or something, right? Nice callback to those. And she's talking about maybe she should be going back to school, and Nadeko's like, yeah, no, school is kind of a little bit more calm now, and Tsukihi apparently just investigated that and told that to Nadeko, which makes sense, right? Because Tsukihi had that deep connection with Nadeko and just wanted to make sure she's all right, still keeps visiting her and all of that. We see that in the end of like Owari. She's like, she's had again, angle, really cool angle. She had a growth spurt, and she's like, if this life as a shut-in let Nadeko grow in a healthy manner instead, that is quite the irony. I don't think it's all that ironic, actually. I mean, different people need different environments to grow and thrive. And we are also talking about what kind of growth do you mean, right? She's been growing physically, but has she been growing as a person? Yes, she has, right? In my opinion, she has been growing as a person because she's been doing what she wanted to do all along, right? She's been following a goal that is ultimately her heart's desire, and that is regardless of environment, right? If she was in school right now, if she was in school right now, I'm sure she could still do her hobbies in her free time and maybe even in a club or whatever. And she would be growing just as much. I don't think Nadeko had problems with social interactions. I mean, obviously there's been kind of some maladaptive traits that have been going on with her, where she's just seeing herself as cute and putting herself out there as cute, and this is all she is, right? There's been relationships that have been strained within her class and all of that. And I think sooner or later she'll need to tackle these issues. But at the moment, this environment she's in, where she can follow her dreams, where she can work productively towards something that she wants to achieve at some point in time, that can be very great. And it can also help her reflect on herself as a person and learn to understand her as a different human being before she can put herself out there again and be like, hey, look, a lot of shit happened, right? I'm back. This is who I am. I'm a little bit more confident in my own identity right now, because before this entire thing started out with her having these troubles with who she is and who she wants to be, and with her identity, and this split between her wanting something specifically, desiring something deeply, but not wanting anybody to know about that, right? Because she thought it embarrassing. And Kaiki did that for her, right? He got her to the realization that life is embarrassing sometimes, and if this is not worth going after, what is, right? But you can only do that as a human, and this is what brought her back. Yeah, it's very interesting and cool how she developed on like a very, very deep character level. I can't wait to see how she keeps developing. Again, cool way we're playing with the environment. She's going past all the shelves. Simple layers, but it's so cool to look at visually. It's so engaging to keep doing it. And she wants to, indeed the snake doesn't reside with you anymore, but there's another that resides within you. We had that. The slug. I was always kind of the impression that this was a fake oddity, but like I said in the main episode in the reaction, obviously oddities, all of these supernatural things, they depend on our perception of things, right? And if Nadeko and a couple of other people believe that this is a reality, right, that this slug tofu, this made-up fake, is actually the real thing, right? Realer than the real thing, maybe, as Kaiki would argue. Then it can be brought into existence. Correct me if I'm wrong in that assumption, and if I'm just not considering some piece of knowledge that I've forgotten across time and that has kind of gotten lost, that I should be knowing about this universe and about how oddities are created and whatnot. But I do believe that this is what Ononoki is kind of trying to make use of, and this is why she needs Nadeko, because without Nadeko being involved, this would not be possible. She needs to actually give her the mental image of what she would perceive that slug to be like, right? Her own visualization of it. If we go by the Frieren thing, exactly, everything is about how you visualize things. How about you, right? How you conceptualize them in your own mind. A little nice Kaike reference where she's like, I've never seen this guy be okay with anything. Which, ouch, but also maybe true. Kaiki is a very controversial character within himself, right? Very conflicted. What are these? I mean, if there's one thing I can say for sure, I can't say, yeah, great, shaft the spec, whatever, right? I mean, I don't want to say that too soon, but what I can say with relative confidence is that I think they did a great job in paying homage to the incredible creativity and the love for different angles and designs and perspectives that Shaft always put forward, right? Even like that the old Shaft team always put forward. And that I have done a really great job with this episode 1 in doing that. And she's doing the slug. Give me the mental image. I do love, again, head tilts, but I do love, never seen unlucky man doing well, right? He's unlucky. Yeah, he is unlucky. Indeed, he is unlucky. And we're making up a ritual. By the way, if I missed the word pun here, I'm pretty sure I missed the word pun here, where she's like, should I change into a school-issued uniform then? Which is a Bakemonogatari reference. And then she's like, I'll omit procedures of that nature. And then Nadeko is like, you can omit them? I mean, maybe it's a normal joke, but I feel like this is a word pun. So let me know if this is a word pun. Typical Ononoki 180 degrees or 360 degree spin. And we're drawing it down. There's also kind of a pun about like drawing the slug because it's slimy and slippery, it should be easy. And then she's no, because it's slimy and slippery, it's hard. So also feels like a word pun to me, but I don't know. I wonder what's about, like what all these handprints are about on her window. I don't even remember if they were in the original series, but if they weren't, do let me know what that's about. And we do have the concept art, which is really cool. Just need the character design. Ononoki's character design right here, meta jokes, right? And then her character design going over into her actual figure. And we're kind of being like, all right, you know, like the specifics, we're not gonna mention that. Where I'm like, damn it, why didn't you mention it? Please, I need a refresher. And we're talking a little bit about publishing and shit, and she's like, I've been publishing online as well. It wasn't so successful, but I've been doing it. And Ononoki's like, I see, so you own a computer? And she's like, no, you can do that with game consoles these days. So Nadeko is a gamer, confirmed? Nadeko is a gamer? Holy shit. That's a W in my book. The jump perspective. The world isn't as easy a place to live in. And Nadeko, in this moment, when she's just doing that, she realizes something. She's like, you know, I'm very glad that this world is not such an easy place to live in. And ain't that the truth, right? I mean, yeah, we curse the world oftentimes because it's a hard place to live in, but we also don't want a world in where everything is just put in our lap, right? Because it would be boring. It would not pose a challenge, and there's many psychological theories look at that as well. There is an inherent human desire for self-improvement, an inherent human desire to develop. And in order to be actually motivated, to be spurred on to develop in a certain direction, you do need to meet obstacles. You do need to meet challenges. If everything you want you automatically get, then there's never a challenge. There's never a need to adapt, right? On any level, right? Be that psychologically, biologically, whatever. There's never a need to adapt. And you will end up not developing these skills that you might want to develop, right? You might not develop in general as a person. And then there's the question, if you do not change as a person, how different is that from actually not being alive at all? Because life is change in a way. I know there's been a very famous quote that you can say a lot of things about the Assassin's Creed series because it's been lazy for a long time, right? It's been just cookie cutter, whatever, and I'm not a big fan of Ubisoft in general, but there's been one quote that I remember from Brotherhood, which was still one of the really, really decent Assassin's Creed games, which is, a town that doesn't change is a town that is dead. And that applies to life as well, right? A human that doesn't change is more or less a human that's dead. We always strive to develop. We have that inner desire to develop. And if we stop developing, if we stop having any variation in our life, in the way our organism functions, how is that different from just being dead, right? Or in this case, being immortal. And how is being immortal different from being dead? Because you don't have an end or a beginning. Maybe you have a beginning, but you never know, right? Immortal means oftentimes in both in both directions. Not all the time. In case of Araragi, right? Sweet girl who was indulged, even Candide made that statement. Yeah, exactly, because she was, right? Because she didn't develop why she was indulged. She didn't develop why she was candied and propped up and just given everything that she needed to. She needed to meet opposition. She needed to meet crisis in order to develop. And the lesson she learned out of that was, I do need the world to be, at the very least, difficult enough, just right for me in difficulty in order to keep developing, right? It shouldn't be too easy, it shouldn't be too hard, but it should be within that Goldilocks zone of just giving me the push I need in order to develop as a human being. I chose the part that everybody is familiar with. Yes, we are. And Tsukihi with the fucking glaive weapon, which I actually looked into. It's called a naginata. And naginata, interestingly enough, I'm just gonna read that because I found it very curious. During the Showa era, naginata became part of the physical education school curriculum for girls. The practice at this time was called naginata do, way of the naginata. After Japan's defeat in World War II, the practice was remodeled, resulting in two naginata practices, Koryu naginata, old or classical naginata, and Atarashi naginata, which is the new, right? Atarashi means new. Despite the differences, the two ways of practicing naginata share many things in common. In both, the practice is systematized according to the tradition of strokes, cuts, and movement of the left and right in various directions, promoting training with an emphasis on the form and beauty of the movement. Very interesting. We do see like that Tsukihi moves a lot, right? In terms of like her expressiveness, and also if we look at some of like the jokes that we had, especially like in Nisa Monogatari, where she saw Araragi in the bath and she took out the knife, or when she just went to get a pan for when she caught Karen and Araragi in the infamous toothbrush scene. But she's very agitated, even in her like outbursts that we have when Araragi comes in and he's like, "Hey, do you know where Karen is?" And she's like, "I don't know, what the fuck, right? Leave me the fuck alone." Moreover, it was used in religious rituals and ceremonies, highlighting its spiritual significance. The naginata's symbolic power extended so far that it was believed to ward off evil spirits, and thus it was commonly displayed in homes and temples, right? That could also be the reason why she picked it up, right? Why Tsukihi was like, okay, I need a weapon, what do I choose, right? I choose the naginata because it's like, it was also used by warrior monks. Hence, maybe the connection between her kind of shrine maidenish uniform, or maybe also, right, religious looking uniform, spiritualistic uniform, and the naginata that she's wearing. But she is scary. I agree. I agree, Ononoki. She's more scary probably than any apparition. Ononoki's like, I fear for my life. This bitch be crazy. She's gonna accidentally fucking murder me. Right? Ononoki is immortal, but she's like, hell no. Stay away with that blade. Yeah, this familiar sight with the bus stop, it's so amazing, right? We met Hachikuchi here, we met grown-up Hachikuchi here as well in like the alternate timeline. A lot of cool, interesting memories, and obviously something very familiar for people who are familiar with the series itself. Yeah, no, don't trust her. Don't trust her. Don't trust her with anything, right? Such cool angles. Look at this angle, right? We're looking through like caged in almost in this specific instance. It's a pretty good story for being an impromptu one. Yeah, I mean, do flatter yourself, Ononoki. It's not gonna last. This is when I unexpectedly meaning behind the words from Nadeko had mentioned. Yeah, we're talking about this right now, right? I'm glad the world is not an easy place. In the purpose of life, it's the purpose of life, so to say. Right. Alright, but at the root of the statement is the purpose of life, so to say. An entitled life where everything goes your way would make you lose sight of whether you're alive or simply dreaming, right? It would feel unreal. It would feel like there's no meaning in it. No matter how fortunately your life is, living with complaints and harboring discontent or uneasiness is not because you're very avaricious, but simply because you don't, right? Because you don't have a solid sense of your purpose in life without such discontent and and uneasiness, right? You do feel that uneasiness because there's some things about your life that you want to improve, that you seek to improve, right? And finding these things out, right, that you don't like about your life, that you like about your life, is actually leading you in the direction of finding your meaning and purpose in life. Now the question is, how does that apply to somebody who is immortal? Because Ononoki says on a logical level she does understand what it means, but she doesn't really empathize with it on an emotional level because she's in a completely different situation. She's in the state of being where she is basically, her life could go on forever, right? I mean, I'm sure there's ways to exercise her, right, and ban her from life entirely, although I don't know how that would work with like purgatory and whatnot if she just go down there, right? And then she'd be living on, kind of. It's not life on Earth, but it's life somewhere else. So in a way, she is immortal. And the question is, how does that change your desire to develop, right? You change your desire to have a clear purpose in life. And maybe that is one of the reasons why Tsukihi in the past felt like she was like, I'm not as engaged. I don't care as much about justice as my sister. I was just going along with her. And maybe I care a lot about, right, what I do things for other people, but at the same time, I don't really have a direction for myself. At least that's what I was getting from her even before this episode, but even especially also in this episode, how she jumps immediately onto that magical girl thing where she's like, I'm game, let's do it. For the first time in my life, I'm actually gonna listen to someone's story seriously. And she doesn't have memories of living as a human, which is interesting because, like, Tsukihi should not feel like an immortal or think like an immortal because she is not aware she is an immortal. So in her own perception, she should think, right, I'm gonna die at some point in time, so I want to find my purpose. Although maybe the entire fact that she is the phoenix, that she is the cuckoo, is actually getting her into that mindset of, right, that problematic state of just repeating the same patterns of behavior over and over again and being unable to really find her purpose. I do wonder if being more aware of herself, right, being more aware of her being, of the nature of her being, would actually help her develop in a way as to find her purpose in life. Because I do feel like even if you are immortal, if you were immortal, there could be a reason, there could be reasons for your life. There could be things that are important for you, right? That are center stage for your life, at least for broad periods of time, if not for forever, basically. With just the subject and the objects of that purpose switching every once in a while. And she does have that unique situation where her brother is also immortal, or at least very, very long-lived. So this is one person that she certainly could and would care about for a long, long time, even if she was aware of being immortal. I don't necessarily think that being immortal immediately means that life has no meaning in a way. It just means that you have to find a different perspective on life, right? That you have to find a different way to conceptualize your existence and being and your purpose in life. And I think that maybe this internal state of ignorance is, in this case for Tsukihi, not bliss, but rather a source of her constantly repeating patterns of behavior that keep her in this loop of maybe clearly, I mean, at least from what we can observe from Tsukihi, uneasy and unsatisfied state in life. I mean, it's like we don't have to say a lot about that. She fucked up. Ononoki fucked up, right? The slug having this detail that she didn't want added, actually, that Nadeko added, and the way she conceptualizes this in a very detailed way, and Ononoki did not keep that in mind. I don't know how slugs are connected to fire. Yeah, she wanted to add some depth and fucked it up for Ononoki in the process, right? And maybe it's also the tofu part, because tofu is always cooked, kind of. And holy shit, the slug be cooking. But we are getting saved by... Interesting, that flashcard, I didn't even see that. As if it was that she throws out her own life, right? Like Araragi. And she forgets everything after the fact. But we get saved by Hachikuchi. Hachikuchi being... She almost wanted to give up. She was like, oh no, you know what? It's gonna be fine. Tsukihi is gonna survive this anyway. I'm gonna give up. But then she's like, no, you know what? I don't want to die. Interesting. Interesting, where you were saying you're this uncaring, immortal person, right? You're saying, like, life doesn't matter really to you, right? Because you're immortal. And still you're like, even a corpse that has died long in the past doesn't want to die. What does that say about you, right? Maybe you need some character development as well. I hope we're going into Ononoki as well, because I love Tsuki Monogatari, but I feel like it was just like a story to convey and bring the plot along and bring it into its final stage, right? Which was super hype and really cool and really a nice tidbit about Ononoki's origins and story, but at the same time I was wishing for more on her specifically. So I do hope this is going more into it. And we have our Lord and Savior Hachiguchi right here. And she bit her tongue again. Well, not really, she... I'm sorry, I got involved. This must be a word pun too. Write the kanji down. Tell me what it means. I love hearing about these things. I might not retain all of that, but it's always a delight for me to see these puns in action and see them explained, because it's really cool how Nizio Isin writes his word puns and his stories and whatnot, and how everything kind of rhymes. She says her line, Kamimashita, and we go on our way. She brings her back. Very funny that we danger warning, caution, watch your head and step, but we also have like a danger fire kind of warning somewhere. I don't know where exactly it is, but I saw it scrolling through earlier. Maybe I'll find it. Come on, please. Watch out for fires, right here. Perfect. Love how we're involving this shit into the environment with all the signs, the traffic signs, way too much for anything. And she says like this might ruffle some feathers, right? If she reports this might be like we need to exterminate her. She's a danger to like the stability of the town and like overall. But Ononoki is like, I want to observe her a little bit more, and I do wonder if this is her getting mesmerized, right, into the phenomenon, getting interested, emotionally, personally involved into Tsukihi and her whole being, because there's so many similarities between the two of them, right? There's so many, right? With all the differences that they have, there's so much they can relate to with one another. She gets a do-over here. She doesn't have to identify herself as a magical girl. Tsukihi comes back. I want to actually go into that as one of the last things. Right. The reason for amnesia is simple. Psychological stress, what you would call trauma, right? So trauma, amnesia, that's pretty common, right? We do forget unpleasant things that we might not be able to process in the moment, right? That we have difficulty processing, so we can function as human beings in everyday life, because we need to function. Events of the past become after effects, engraving themselves deep into her personality's core. Interesting. So there are effects, right? There are effects. It changes her personality, but she herself doesn't recall or remember them in such cases, especially when she, right, dies and whatnot. It makes living life difficult. If that's the case, then that wound must be healed. That's right. The Shide no Tori, an eternal apparition, phoenix of all things, can completely heal wounds of the heart. Can she? Interesting. Right? She psychologically heals them, but they change her. You just said she changes her, right? If I understood that correctly. So it has a lasting effect, but the negative effects of it, they are healed, right? Much like her entire body, if it gets obliterated, it's healed immediately again. Wounds that would be inconvenient to have to keep living. Memories, wounds, okay? Right, so memories that would be inconvenient to have to keep living are eradicated from the brain without a trace. But the effects of the memories are not, right? So you can get into a situation that you live through traumatic events that you then forget, but they shape you as a person, which can make life really difficult. I can see that. Such an outlier self-purification action is functioning overwhelmingly, and Tsukihi Araragi lives today with vigor and spirit. That's exactly why, no matter how much time passes, she lacks the ability to learn, right? Because our failures, our memories teach us things, right? We learn from them. And aside from the fundamental changes to our being, there's also things that happen through realization of us making a mistake, right? Things that happen as a realization of things that have happened, right? Things that we process actively, in addition to our passive adaptations, our biological adaptations, and all of that. And it's exhaustively repeating. No matter how much time passes, she barely manages to fail, and those failures are disposed of only to those around her. Disposed of. No. And those failures are deposed only to those around her, so only those around her remember those failures. She's dancing the platinum disco, I think. They are deposed, they are accumulated, and that becomes the new kindling, right? She creates chaos around her, but she herself almost is seemingly unaffected by that chaos that she creates. A blazing phoenix, a fire, right? That itself is neutral and isn't affected by the things around it. It is, right? It needs oxygen to burn and all these things, but whatever. But it influences everything around it way more than it influences itself. And the core of the flaming question wipes her slate clean of the series of failures and flies off from the burnt field without fouling the area around her. And lives an eternal life from the beginning, right? It repeats, always from the beginning. But is that a fulfilling life? And is that maybe the reason why after a while, right? After such a big event and the memory wipe and whatever, after a while, she starts to become unsatisfied, bored, unhappy. Terrifying, but it is also intriguing. And she wants to be, right, she wants to observe her longer because she's curious, she's interested. I shall continue. National treasure, right? I mean, yeah, right. The cuckoo, and the story repeats. She does the same, and here we can tell, like I said in the original reaction, behavior repeats itself, right? We are all routine creatures, even the ones who are undead, basically. By pretending to be human, she's also pretending to be somebody who is heavily influenced by routine. So her behavior goes in the same vein. The same things happen again, right? Araragi repeats his behavior. Yotsuki repeats her behavior. Tsukihi repeats her behavior, and now we're at square one. This time, I'm sure I'll gonna make it right. Yeah, I'm sure. I do wonder how long it takes to break out of that cycle, or if we repeat it for a couple of more episodes before we actually get to a significant development. I'm gonna look shortly into these lyrics, but we're gonna analyze them more thoroughly in maybe, I don't know, in August or something, right? Because I don't have that much time right now, so. Unhappy, a troubled human child. All right, let me just speed that down a little bit. For the inhumane, aim timelessly because you're alive. A past that you looked away from too, right? Looking away, forgetting it. A boring future too. No purpose in life, really. Counseling. I don't know if that's translated right? Peace. Unhappy, we have the slug and we have people running by here, right? That looks like Ogi. Maybe I'm wrong. Looks like Ogi. Hajikuchi, Shinobu, Kanbaru, yeah, right. We have something like, I don't know, planes flying by. It was just starting to get out of hand, for fucking sure. And the main characters, obviously, Nadeko, Ononoki, and Tsukihi in this, right? Her following them, and then them following her. Hey, why do I somehow feel like I'm fighting? I can't touch and don't want to touch myself from the past, right? I'm disconnected to my past self. I've been dead for a long time now. I fight with a transparent ghost, deep in a childish and painful memory. Disappointed it's gone. Oh, you like that better? That's ironic. Am I as I am now? What's transparent? Very interesting. Maybe I'll look up some alternate lyrics. It does seem like there's a little bit of like a lost in translation, or not 100% translated, but we'll see. Yeah. A label that doesn't disappear. It's basically a complex. You seem to be possessed. The old me that's wrapped up and won't leave. Undead, I'm not dead yet. A chain of you and you. To be alive is to keep changing, right? And you're not changing. Don't be satisfied with unhappiness. You're a coward if you don't try to be happy, right? And I heard that before, right? It's been in the series before as a theme. Coward if you don't try to be happy. I think that was kind of like one of the concluding thoughts in Owari. And Tsukihi wants to be happy too, right? And her internal being strives for that constantly, but the way she is, right, and the way these things repeat themselves, I think it might keep her from being happy. This world are a strange, strange fantasy. Will a demon appear next or will a snake? Funny. The story finally begins after meeting. Is it a human or a monster? Right? Is Tsukihi a human or a monster? And we end with the peace of Nadeko. Nadeko, I'm saying of Ononoki, but Nadeko is also making the peace sign. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, might sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm very, very curious about what happens next. There's a lot of directions this can go in. Obviously, we have set the base tone, right? Repeating cycles, right? Immortality versus humanity, right? How do you combine the two of them, which are combined within Tsukihi? Her unique phenomenon and people who relate to her, like Ononoki, possibly also like partially like Nadeko, but Nadeko is a little bit removed from that. She's somebody who Ononoki can relate to as somebody who became like an oddity. And probably maybe the reason that Nadeko is so involved in oddities and that Tsukihi is an oddity herself, maybe they're kind of linked in a way, at least on a correlational level, right? There's a correlate. Yeah. What happens next? I don't know, right? We're back at square one. We're back at the beginning of episode 1, and this is where we're gonna be for episode 2. So can't wait to see the next episode. A lot of shaftisms in there, right? We see the head tilts, we see the angles, we see the very creative way to put that, and they really did that justice in my opinion. And if this is how the rest of the series is gonna look, then I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see the next episode, and I do hope you can't wait to see it either. If you would like to have more content on Monogatari, leave me a like, right? Subscribe to the channel to see when the next content comes out on my channel specifically. And I'll be seeing you next time.